What if the war between science and religion was never really about God, but about control and the fear of losing it? For centuries we've been told a story of heresy and blasphemy, but beneath it lies a more unsettling truth. The real threat was to earthly power, not the divine. Join me as we witness moments when knowledge was silenced in the name of holiness and ask who or what was truly being protected. Galileo's crime was observation. With his telescope, he saw moons orbiting Jupiter and phases of Venus, evidence that the Earth was not the center of the universe. The Church, deeply invested in the geocentric model, saw this as a threat to its authority. Galileo's trial was never about astronomy, it was about power. Forced to recant, Galileo became a symbol of how institutions can imprison the mind. His whispered words, "and yet it moves," were a quiet declaration that truth endures, even when silenced. Truth can be forced into the shadows, but it continues its journey. The mechanics of power, not the heavens, were on trial. Giordano Bruno imagined an infinite universe filled with countless worlds and possibilities. This vision dissolved the boundaries that gave the Church its privileged position. For refusing to renounce his ideas, Bruno was burned at the stake, a warning that some questions are too dangerous to ask. Bruno died not for lies, but for the liberating power of imagination. Darwin's theory of evolution challenged the simple, comforting story of creation with a complex, ongoing process governed by natural laws. The backlash was fierce, not just to protect scripture, but to protect certainty and human exceptionalism. Darwin's work replaced myth with evidence, unsettling those who preferred a predictable universe. The real conflict was not God versus science, but comfort versus complexity. Truth, in its complexity, weakens the illusion of certainty. Hypatia, a philosopher and mathematician in Alexandria, became a target as religious zealotry rose. Her influence and intellect threatened the new order. Her murder by a mob was a calculated act to erase knowledge and assert control. Hypatia was killed not for sin, but for teaching. Her death marked the moment when learning became a mortal danger. The city of reason descended into dogma. William Tyndale's radical idea was simple. Everyone should read the Bible in their own language. Translating scripture broke the Church's monopoly on interpretation and threatened its power. For this, Tyndale was hunted, executed, and his work condemned. His crime was not theological, but political. Knowledge was the threat. Control, not faith, was the motive. The Index of Forbidden Books was a centuries-long campaign to outlaw ideas deemed dangerous by the Church. It banned works by scientists, philosophers, and even novelists, casting a shadow over free inquiry. The Index forced thinkers to self-censor or publish in secret. For 400 years, truth itself was illegal. Ignorance was enforced in the name of holiness. Vesalius defied tradition by dissecting human bodies, revealing errors in ancient texts and laying the foundation for modern anatomy. His work was condemned as heresy, and he was hounded into abandoning his research. By exposing reality, Vesalius threatened dogma. The price of truth was exile. The Islamic Golden Age was a beacon of learning where science and faith coexisted. But anti-rationalist movements rose, declaring philosophy dangerous and drying up support for science. Book burnings and dogma replaced inquiry. The light of reason was extinguished from within. The collapse was not by invasion, but by fear of knowledge. The Scopes trial was a battle over whether evolution could be taught in American schools. The trial exposed the conflict between religious fundamentalism and scientific freedom. Though Scopes was found guilty, the anti-evolution movement suffered a public defeat. The trial became a symbol of the struggle between modernity and control. Even in modern times, faith tried to arrest science. Al-Hallaj, a Sufi mystic, declared, "I am the truth," expressing mystical union with God. Authorities saw this as blasphemy and executed him. His real crime was speaking freely about spiritual experience. Power could not tolerate poetic truth. Copernicus developed the heliocentric model but feared publishing it. Only at the end of his life did he release his work, avoiding persecution but leaving a legacy of caution. His story is a testament to the climate of fear surrounding new ideas. Knowledge was dangerous enough to hide. Averroes championed reason and philosophy, arguing it complemented faith. As fundamentalism rose, he was exiled, his books burned, and his teachings banned. The message, obedience over understanding. Ignorance was called piety. Religious taboos against dissection kept the body's secrets hidden for centuries. This blocked medical progress and perpetuated suffering. The intention was piety, but the result was ignorance. Faith blocked healing in God's name. Witch hunts targeted mostly women, healers, outsiders, or the independent, under the guise of rooting out evil. The real motive was enforcing conformity and eliminating threats to authority. The trials were a campaign against knowledge and difference. Fear of the unknown became a weapon. Female genital mutilation is justified as tradition or religion, but it is a tool of control and subjugation. It causes lifelong harm and is a violation of human rights. Calling it religious grants it false legitimacy. This is cruelty, not faith. From the Crusades to modern extremism, violence is justified in God's name. Leaders manipulate faith to gain power, while true believers become pawns. The outcomes, land, wealth, dominance, reveal earthly motives. God didn't ask for this, men did. Religion was the excuse, not the cause. Vaccines have saved millions, yet resistance persists, often cloaked in religious or pseudo-religious arguments. The claim science is playing God. This fear, amplified by misinformation, leads to preventable suffering. Science saves lives, fear silences it. Stem cell research offered hope for millions, but religious opposition over the use of embryos led to political restrictions. The debate was framed as defending the unborn, but the result was continued suffering for the living. Progress was blocked not by science but by dogma. The cost was human potential. Despite overwhelming evidence, climate science is denied by some, often using religious arguments about dominion or fatalism. This provides cover for inaction and protects vested interests. Ignoring environmental warnings is not piety, but negligence. The Earth suffers for our denial. New technologies like AI and genetic engineering face religious prohibitions, not because they are evil, but because they empower individuals. The real threat is democratization of knowledge and power. Opposition is about control, not morality. Empowered people are harder to rule. Extremist groups attack girls' education, fearing empowered women who question authority. The war on education is a war on the future. To claim God desires ignorance is a perversion of faith. Learning is a sacred right. Baha'is in Iran are denied education and employment, not for their work, but for their faith. Their persecution is about crushing an alternative vision of society. This is not science versus religion, but power silencing both. When religion fuses with power, people, not just ideas, are silenced. Book bans in modern America target stories about race, gender, and sexuality, aiming to control the narrative and erase uncomfortable truths. The real function is to enforce conformity and suppress change. It is a modern-day index of forbidden books. Ignorance remains easier to control. Dictatorships, religious or secular, cannot tolerate independent authority. Science is the ultimate threat. They may use technology, but crush the spirit of inquiry. The war is not about God, but about protecting the throne. Suppressing science is political self-preservation. God does not fear science, tyrants do. The real story is power versus truth. When authority cannot be questioned, all questions become threats. True faith and true science both welcome the light. Truth needs freedom, not protection. In the end, science wins, not for God, but for humanity.